Are you caring for others while working and trying to live your own life? Wondering how to find the time for your own health and happiness? Well, you're in the right place. The Happy Healthy Caregiver podcast, which is part of the Whole Care Network, is the show where real family caregivers share how to be happy and healthy while caring for others. Hello and welcome. I'm your host, Elizabeth Miller. I'm a fellow family caregiver, a care advocate, a professional speaker, author, certified caregiving consultant, and certified senior advisor. If this is your first time listening, thank you for being here. This is a show produced bi-weekly to help family caregivers integrate self-care and caregiving into their lives. Each episode has an accompanying show notes page. If you'd like more detail about the topics, products, and resources we speak about, or you want to see any of the related photos, you'll find the show notes by going to the website happyhealthycaregiver.com, and underneath the podcast menu, click the image or episode number for today's show. Now let's get to it. Let's jump into this episode. Thanks so much for being here. Before we get into this episode with Brian Stifel, I first want to share a couple of quick announcements on my own. I want to encourage you to subscribe to the Happy Healthy Caregiver email list. Every week I share something happy, healthy, and care related. You can subscribe to the list by going to bit.ly/HHC news. This episode is brought to you from Guilt to Good Enough, a memoir about caregiving, guilt, and healing. Jeanette Yates takes you through a lifelong caregiving journey, confronting the emotional toll and offering a path toward healing through boundaries and reflective journaling. Each chapter includes journaling prompts designed to help you examine your own guilt and emotional triggers so you can heal while continuing to care for others. I found this book heartfelt and empowering with authentic storytelling and practical guidance. It reframes good enough as self-compassion and progress over perfection. From Guilt to Good Enough is here to help you care for the caregiver too. Find your copy and delve into the prompts at theselfcaregiver.com/book. For this episode segment of what I'm reading, I wanted to let you know about Mel Robbins and her daughter Sawyer Robbins' book, The Let Them Theory. While this is not a caregiving book, it frankly should be, because honestly, caregiving is primarily about adult relationships, and this book is all about those. Can't recommend this enough for parents of adult children, help with adult friendships, romantic relationships, family caregivers, etc. I adored the Audible listen that Mel narrates. If you are a fan of her podcast, you're going to fly through this audio book. She has a friend-to-friend style of talking, and the stories just bring the lessons to life. Buckle up and get ready to take your power and your energy back. It's a 5-star read for me and one of the few books that I would actually reread or re-listen to. Speaking of Mel Robbins, my favorite thing is something I first learned about on one of her podcasts with Dr. Stacy Sims. The episode was called The Body Reset: How Women Should Eat and Exercise for Health, Fat Loss, and Energy. One of the very doable tips that I got from this show was the fact that we and women in particular are showing up at our workouts with an empty stomach, and that is a huge disservice to building muscle, burning fat, and feeling energized. The tip that stuck with me in particular is that I started drinking a protein iced coffee before my strength training workouts. Also, just a note, I was not an iced coffee drinker before I started trying this, but now I really see the appeal. So here's how I put it into practice. After dinner, usually while I'm cleaning up, I brew a cup of coffee the night before, and then I put it in the fridge. And then when I'm getting ready for my workout, for my strength training ones in particular, and shout out to Trained and Marietta and Madison in particular, who leads the small groups with variety and energy, I put the brewed coffee in the fridge overnight. And then in the morning, I take about a cup of unsweetened almond milk and I mix that with not quite a full scoop of Flav City vanilla protein powder, but pretty close. Let's say, 2/3. I mix that up with the milk, the protein powder, and then I add it to the coffee and mix it all up. And then I add the ice. And that gives me something to sip on while I'm driving to my workout. And I feel like it's giving me a lot of energy and strength, more strength building really for my workouts. So you don't even have to add stevia because the protein powder that I use has some natural sweeteners in it. I think primarily from the bananas and the coconut that they include in the powder. This is something that you can grab and go. I hope that you give it a try. Let's meet today's caregiver in the spotlight. Brian Stifel cared for his brother and continues to provide care and support for his mom. He's a corporate executive, husband, and proud father of 3. In this episode, we discuss real-life caregiving challenges, including dating while caregiving, the myth of work life balance, online safety concerns, and finding joy in each day. Even on tough days, Brian says he can string together a few of these hot dog moments. I hope you enjoy the show. Hi, Dan. Welcome to the Happy Healthy Caregiver podcast.
Well, hello, and it's great to be here. Thank you.
Yeah, I'm excited to chat with you and spotlight your story and the resources that have helped you and all of that. But we always kick off the show with something from the Happy Healthy Caregiver jar. This is stuff that I've collected, and I continue to collect things that kind of resonate, and maybe we'll hit the caregivers where they are today so that they can, just feel seen and validated. So this says, at the end of the day, before you close your eyes, smile and be happy with where you've been and grateful for what you have. Life can be tough, but it's also really good.
That's
Yeah.
wonderful.
Do
That's
you
wonderful.
feel like two things can be true at the same time sometimes?
I think so. It's a matter of perspective, but it's also, I think, what that demonstrates is a positive attitude. Because even though we know the difficulty or really just the unseen activities that will happen, we can also know that we're confident that we're going to be able to get through them and have the strength to be there for our loved ones.
Yeah, I think the community and support from other folks once they tap into that plays a big part in that and knowing that they're not alone. Well, I would love for the listeners to get to know you a little bit better, Dan. I know you're an Army veteran, so thank you for your service.
Thank you.
Think that in many ways it sounded like your role that you had a little bit of taste of caregiving even when you were in the Army. Did you see yourself kind of as a caregiver to many in the roles that you had in the Army?
Well, in the Army, initially, I really wanted to go in service. And so I signed up for the Navy originally, and I was going to be a corpsman in the Navy. And my history is that I have three brothers, and all of them served in the military. And so they gave me a great lead into what I saw in my own future. But I didn't go to the Navy. I ended up going to the Army. And so in the Army, I chose a combat medic at first as my career path, and then I eventually went to nursing school in the Army. And so, yeah, just always have been in that capacity of wanting to be a healer and serve in that capacity. And so, even after the military, working in a career field, still in nursing, case managing, and then the company I ended up working with prior to coming to DAV was geriatric services, and that
Mm.
was taking care of geriatric clients. And so the caregiving aspect of it has always kind of been ingrained in me. And even in my role with DAV as a national service officer, which we'll talk about some other services that our organization can offer, and especially, with my experience, because that all translates into the resources that you
Yeah.
can find with our organization's just history of taking care of the veteran and
Yeah,
also
I want to
now the caregivers.
yeah, we will definitely dive into that. I want to also kind of just set the stage so that you also have a personal caregiving story. So I don't know if your work in the Army and in geriatric services kind of help prepare you for that, but tell us a little bit about your personal caregiving story.
Well, that came with just a diagnosis
Mm.
with my wife of stage 4 cancer, and that role progressed as her course, the disease progressed, and I really didn't think of myself as a caregiver per se. I mean, I had the background first and foremost of nursing, but also I didn't find it to be something that has been that challenging. I mean, I'll say that things have definitely escalated because we've now been battling this for more than 5 years, and
Mm.
so she certainly things have become more complicated for her, involving wound care, medication management, dealing with a lot of the aspects of three medical facilities, major medical facilities in the United States, that we would go to 4 or 5 if that's what it would take. So the caregiver role definitely has evolved for me, but as I can relate it to our own caregiver initiative, I was talking to this about this today with someone who actually encouraged me to get oriented on a personal level with our caregiver program. And being a national line officer and on just really this path of talking about the great programs that we do, a lot of it was anecdotal stories until he introduced me and just really gave me an opportunity to see it firsthand because I really thought, one, not really a caregiver per se, and then he just said, "Have you ever gone through the process of signing up or just looking into the process?" And I'm like, "No." So he literally flips his laptop right there and says, "Here, sign up, do this." And within a matter of 5 minutes, I realized that there's an assessment that happens that you really can't escape. And so at davcaregiver.org, you go through this assessment, and the assessment's asking you questions about you and how this relates to you as a caregiver, but also how it affects your loved one. And so you can imagine that being a veteran taking care of a loved one, which is the unique aspect of our program,
Uh-huh.
is that it supports not only the loved one taking care of a veteran, but also the veteran taking care of a loved one. And this is an interesting statistic that 70% of veterans will take care of a loved one eventually.
Wow.
And that span goes for like 10 years. And it could go longer. But so that's where our organization was able to see the need for a veteran like myself. And so I could not escape just the reality of how it was affecting me. And because I decided, okay, you know what? If I'm going to talk about this, then okay, I'm going to go through the process. And so the next thing you do after you look at these areas and the areas will grade it on like a higher impact or a lower impact and so you really get a good idea of how these each areas are affecting. Well, the next thing to do is to set up an appointment with a care specialist. And
Mhm.
I thought, that's going to be a couple weeks or something. I had my appointment the next day at 7:30 in the morning. And
Okay.
and it says it's supposed to be for about 30 minutes. Well, we talked for better than an hour, and it was really cathartic just talking about it because when Teresa was first diagnosed, she's young, in her late 40s, and gets that colonoscopy, and we're
Mm.
now waiting to figure out what's happening because the doctor indicated at that point, well, we're doing biopsies, we're checking things out, and so we went on with our business, and I came home, and she was in our backyard in an evening dress, and I was like, "Did I forget something? Are we supposed to go somewhere?" And she told me that the results came back and that she had stage 4 cancer, and she told me that she might not get a chance to wear these beautiful dresses, and of course, I just freak out. I mean, I'm just distraught, and she tells me, "You need to get it together because I need you to be strong. Go get a hamburger, go, come back and we're gonna figure this out." And so that's something that caregivers have to understand, they need to they want us to be strong and have that strength. So talking to this person, I was breaking down and crying and,
Yeah.
just really letting things out. And it had a follow-up with it. And we talked about just avenues that I could see that were my own needs and I had gone ahead and put on the back burner things that, were some of the things that I would do, like including, sleep or just things that are really where I need to take care of myself so I can take care of her, you know?
Yeah, it's so interesting your story. So it's like what I'm understanding is like you have this big position with a DAV that supports family caregivers. You're not recognizing that you yourself are a caregiver for your wife. You're kind of just like,
Right,
well, I need to educate myself. Let me go through this process. And through the
right.
process, it sounds like through the conversation with your intake person, that you felt safe, to kind of peel back the layers. And had you come out the other side thinking, "Gosh darn it, I am a caregiver," or yeah, like, are you
Absolutely.
assuming the role?
I am, and I'm assuming that that title, because it's one that I wear with honor. And even when I spoke at our national convention, I told our members, if there's one thing that you want to make sure you do is to sign up for our caregiver program, to visit it because you could go through a battery of questions and kind of realize that in some way, shape, or form, you could benefit from this site. Even if you know somebody who is a caregiver, you
Yeah.
could you could help them through this initiative. And it's so personal because that care specialist is going to be your care specialist throughout the process. They're going to be able to align you with the resources in your own town. And this could be respite. This could be things that, are just chores around the house. This could be, looking for ergonomic equipment or, different things that one, is certainly going to be a way to give you some relief of some of the things that you are doing as a caregiver or you need assistance at or resources to be directed towards. And so for me, my wife found a lot of, I would say comfort at being in her own group with those who are going through terminal cancer and under treatment. And so she directed me to try to engage in that myself with a support group. And I just didn't find it to be like where I benefited from it, but I tried it, but having this one-on-one or the ability to talk to the care specialist was more something I think is more my style because, although, I'm very open to directing individuals to resources. I've been with DAV 25 years. I've worked on the service side. I'm constantly, just like talking to somebody the other day, and they were telling me about their parent who was a Vietnam veteran, and I was like, "Well, let me ask you a question. Do they have the help that they need, or different things?" I said, "Let me go to work." That's what I said, and I just wanted to go ahead and do that. So we're constantly doing that, and under the whole caregiver support aspect, there's also the way that we can rally other resources to the spouses of veterans or the veterans themselves because of our our service capacity or other aspects that we can do with the number of chapters and 100 offices nationwide. We can certainly direct them into other resources. I come from a very dense veteran populated state of 1.8 million veterans in California. And
Oh,
so there's, there's a lot of veterans who are not receiving benefits. And a lot of times that's because they just don't have the knowledge about them.
yeah. What does the DAV stand for?
Disabled American veterans.
Disabled American Veterans. So you've got two kind of twofold programs. You do things to support the veterans hand on, and then certainly in this podcast, we're talking more about the caregiver support side
Correct.
of it because it's all encompassing, right? Like you support the caregiver, you are supporting the
Absolutely.
veteran.
Absolutely.
And so I love that and there's this support that helps them. There's no cost, right?
No cost. Absolutely. No cost.
So what do you have to do to who qualifies to be in the support for the DAV and like how do they get
So
started?
with our caregiver support program, it's simply if you are a caregiver and you're taking care of a veteran, or if you are a veteran taking care of a loved one, then you can DAV caregivers or caregivers.org.
Yeah.
And then if you want to look at the global aspect of all of our services, even when you talk to the care specialists, they're trained to kind of analyze and assess if there are some ancillary ways that DAV can help. But DAV.org is another way to look at the veteran side of it. I know that just in the infancy of this program, which we are so dedicated to it, and it was great that we even created a department specific to our caregiver initiative, and so it's expanding and growing. So the feedback that we get from those who are using the services, and I'm just going to throw a number out there, but I would say we are even there. But since starting this program in 23, I think we've already affected more than or close to 2,000 caregivers
Oh
in
wow.
one way or another.
2023?
Yeah.
Yeah,
So this
wow.
this this is
So
a
the
this is a
caregiver
great.
part is pretty new.
Yeah, absolutely. But see, the evolution of our organization is always looking at how can we expand with what we can do as well. It's not just like claims work, but we can also help veterans and spouses with finding employment through our job programs. And then we also have entrepreneurial assistance through our Patriot Boot Camp. And that's also open to veterans and their spouses as well. So DAV is always looking at how can we help the veteran, the spouses, and now with our caregiver initiative, we're also expanding in that sense.
Yeah, so interesting. And thank you for putting the focus on caregiver support. I'm curious, we talk about like the rising of the older adult generation. Like, is the DAV concerned about the rising population of older adult veterans and their caregivers? Like,
Yeah, the silver tsunami for sure. Well and this is where our advocacy works, and I testified before Congress last year on really the growth of the population of older veterans. Over the next 10 years, it's gonna be 600%. We don't have enough long-term care facilities, but the caregiver program, and I remember this as being a case manager and working, in the geriatric services arena, is that to keep them at home is really paramount, because once you put them in a rehab facility or a long-term care facility, that's very detrimental to their mental health, because then they don't have their own space, they're not there, enables them to have that quality of life and to be able to just get some respite services. And we're also doing things with our morale welfare too. So we have a disabled veterans golf clinic, and we also have our winter sports clinic that caregivers come,
yeah,
spouses.
get some social self care going in
And
there.
so that's what we do. We actually will have events that are specific to them, to give them, a little bit of time to just pamper themselves, or just meet with each other and so we're expanding in that, and so the vision of the organization is to identify ways that we can provide outlets for them
Mhm.
with those, but also maybe some workshops and different events that are going to be geared towards giving them more resources and information.
Yeah, so good. Like thinking about all the different pieces, and a lot of what I talk about is the different types of self care. And certainly, we need the emotional support, we need physical support, social, financial. By not try. How is the DAV funded?
So totally, it's a nonprofit organization, and
Okay.
so the generosity of the public is certainly there. I mean, DAV has been around for 104 years now and growing, and so it has a great reputation with the generous public, and through those, as far as generous contributions, we're able to evolve in our way of being able to support, because we do also, disaster relief was a major way
Yeah.
that DAV supported last year, and, we're looking at probably some catastrophic as far as weather patterns happening in Arizona, and now with hurricanes the East Coast, with the fires in California. But all of that too can be a caregiver aspect as well, to have those resources so that when you're in those challenges. But I mean, I think like with understanding that evolving process with me and my spouse, as far as the caregiving community, it's just reaching out, people reaching out to me and checking on me, and you know what, it's almost like instinctive that they say, okay, well, how are you doing? Oh, and of course me, I'm fine, I can handle this. But the other day, there was an exacerbation, had to go to the emergency room because pain wasn't being
Mm.
managed at home. I was afraid that, we're just call her doctor, bring her in. And so, um, she was admitted, and where I finally took off, went to go home, got a call first. She says, I need you to come. And that's our safe word. I told her, you tell me to come, I'm going wherever you're at. And then she goes, on second thought, just go back to bed. I think I'm gonna be okay. Well, 2 o'clock in the morning, I get that call again. And so I'm just going ahead and just getting
The
over to the
real me. Yeah.
hospital and
Change my mind. I
sleeping
need you.
sleeping in a chair, holding her hand, gating my, you know, personal hygiene or whatever it is. But we go through that. Those are the things that I'm got to start looking at. Vitamins and sleep and exercise and a lot of the ancillary things I used to do for me, like putting them on the back burner while we go through this process with her. She's sacrificing a lot. She's the one going through the battle. Stuart Scott had a really good saying, and he was an ESPN.
Stuart Scott?
analyst. Yeah, and he said and he was battling cancer, and there's a Stuart Scott Foundation to this day, and he said, "Fight like hell till you can't fight anymore, then let someone else fight till you can fight again." And that's what I try to let Teresa know, because you know it and I know it, and all caregivers know that the more independence that they can maintain, then they feel a sense of control, you know? And so, in the hospital, I was wanting to get something off of a chair that was well out of her reach and out of my reach as well. But she, in her pain state, wanted to go ahead and grab this item for me. And I'm like, no, and she looked at me with like stink eye, like,
Yeah.
and then, and so I reminded her about it later, and I know just if she could do little things for me, and that's what I want to communicate is that we have to kind of just like for me with her, Teresa, smarty girl, she went back to school after she was already a very prominent professional in her own role and excelled at that. So I know that I'm competing with someone or not competing with someone. I got to understand that really to give her that latitude or that ability to be able to have that independent mind and
Yeah.
have the contributions to her extent is important as well. And I think we all know that. I mean, just in general, even with senior people, as they lose the ability to drive or to, do different things, that loss of independence is something that if we can go ahead and allow a little bit of just a lean, because I'll tell you, in this role with her, I have become so much more calm in other situations. The little things just don't get me like they used to anymore because I just see her strength, her battle. And for me, those things are just like for others, it's like, wow,
Yeah, it puts
people don't
things in
have a clue.
perspective.
Yeah, it's a different perspective. Exactly.
Yeah, and I appreciate what you're saying about keeping people's independence, and, like, she's a part of the care team, like, she's a care partner, like, it's a partnership, and
Absolutely.
keeping them independent and giving them dignity, and the same way with our older adults and anybody, like, everybody wants to feel valued and purpose and likely not feel like they're a burden on other people, so, yeah, she sounds like a tough cookie and a good match for
Yeah.
you. What's top of mind for you, like, well, I guess what's top of mind for the DAV? What's top of mind for you as a caregiver? Like what are you thinking about right now?
Well, as her disease process has progressed, and not everybody has cancer, and I mean, we have, in our organization, when you look at the number of veterans nationwide, we can't tap into all of them. So the outreach is so important, but understanding that there's just going to be such a variable when it comes to, like, even with me, things have started to get to now wound care, medication management, just really, I've got Narcan all over the house and in my suitcases and, just really looking at how can I be better prepared? And, the question's going to arise where you're talking about advanced directives, you're talking about, different
Mhm.
things that are her choices. And so those are tough questions, and recently she talked to me about wanting to donate her body to the Mayo Clinic. And so now I've always tried to think that I had all, the information and everything. And so those are the things that are still kind of weighing, and still evolving, you know?
Yeah. For both of you, I imagine. We
Mhm.
need this too,
Yeah. Well, and that's what's really great about the davcaregivers.org site is because it identifies where you are having to do activities of daily living for
Mhm.
someone. So, you know, right away that puts you into that category. You are seeing where it's affecting your health, mental health. It does ask you about the cognitive ability of the person that
Mm.
you're taking care of. And so that starts to give them insight to potential resources. And then also where you are aligned with that local ability is where that care specialist can direct you into either some resources, mental health connections with counseling or morale welfare. Like this is really great because I never saw myself as a crafty person, and Teresa was an eco adventure kind of person. And so, but we have found, and this was through the caregiver program, that we enjoy doing crafts together. So we do Turkish
Nice.
lamps, we paint, we do Lego projects, and so and of course, yeah, I'm a Dodger super fan, and so when I'm doing painting stuff, I'm doing a Dodger this. I even made my Turkish lamp with kind of a Dodger feel to it as
Nice.
well. But
I
you
love
know,
that so much. Like,
just
so
being with her, yeah,
yeah, like that so a lot of what we talk about, yeah, I coach on self-care, right? And how caregivers can prevent burnout.
sure,
But one of the
sure,
activities that we do is I'm also looking to put more fun in people's life. Like why does it have to be so
right,
hard? So we talk about this joint joy list, which you kind of touched on because like you've got your joys of things that make you happy and Teresa has her joys, but then where you overlap in the middle is kind
yeah,
of that sweet spot.
yeah,
And so identifying those and so I do think that it's probably evolved, her energy level's not what it used to be and the things that maybe that you all used to enjoy doing. But
yeah,
your partner or your older, parent or a child, like
right,
I think we all kind of have those things where we can meet up. So I love that you found that you're a crafty person and can
yeah.
combine.
Yeah, and she'll just set a Lego item out, and I just know it's time to sit down and do Legos, but sometimes she just hands me pieces, and we work on them together that way because her hands,
Mm,
depending on, like, a chemo that she's on or something, it might give her some numbness or dexterity issues and things. But no, I mean, I just see the joy in her face when we're doing things collectively, and sometimes, like, we might be sitting in the bedroom and she's on her iPad watching a murder show and I'm watching a chick flick on my side or a Dodger game or something. But yeah, and that's where, again, just that togetherness and we're supposed to go on a big trip coming up and things have evolved to where she's not going to be able to go. Or she just doesn't feel comfortable in going. And I'm okay with that, because really, we've always worked together to, if something affects you personally, then you have the ultimate decision. And with her care, her decision on how to go after cancer I'm telling you, the chemo that she's gone through and the surgeries and everything else, I don't know if I would last 3 months, let alone 5 plus years. So, I I give her a lot of just support in her own processes, and I think that that's tough to do because I've seen where, certain family members are really adamant about pushing a certain way
mm,
of treatment or anything like that, and that's why I just kind of resort to my approach, and I'm not saying it's the best because it's a science, just like
mhm.
raising kids are a science. Um, but I'll feel comfortable at the end of the day that really she made her conscientious choices and that I supported her vision. Well, thank God she's in the 15th percentile of survivors with stage 4 cancer, and with her particular cancer
Yeah.
and so something must be involved in her approach to it.
Yeah, and
We've
and
been to
support. The
LA.
support she has, I also don't
Yeah.
want you to diminish your role, like, she may say, well, it would be hard for her to be Dan, like, watching your person, so it's like
And
there's yeah,
You're right, she gives me a lot of credit. I'll give you that. She literally says, "I would not be here today if it wasn't for you."
yeah. I mean, because I honestly feel, Dan, that, like, when yes, they're going through the hard work of the chemo and this and that, but when your person gets a diagnosis, you also get a diagnosis in many ways, like, it is, change kind of what you thought the future look like? The
Absolutely.
drop everything and be there, maybe the career choices that you made or the roles that you've taken on or
Well, for sure.
like it does. It changes a lot of things. Yeah.
I share the story because the role as national commander comes with a 6-year trail in leading into that position. She was diagnosed in 2020, and I was just starting on the line in 2019. And I said to her that I said, you know what, I'll drop all of this. I think we need to focus on. She goes, that would kill me first. And so this journey and it's really just how it's evolved in this way that it's been one together. I mean, even
Yeah.
before I went on the line, she has been very supportive of my work with DA. The things that were important to me were important to her as well. And so, but she allowed me to openly talk about her. And it was a conversation I had with her. And at first she she wasn't sure, but then she came back and this is something that we collectively decided that
Yeah.
telling her story and being able to share just the role that I have and is gonna be something that will help kind of put a direct picture on me personally and why I have a direct connection or an intimate connection with this passion for
Yeah.
this. And I talk to a lot of caregivers, and each one is uniquely challenged in one way or another. This program put all of us together and gave us a resource to maybe help and even a little bit is some help too. Because I mean, I truly call it, where the unseen heroes,
Yeah.
are the caregivers. And I don't want to label myself that, but if I'm under, that, because I don't really, I think everything that I want to do moving forward is still possible. But right now, and I talk about this as far as like this parallel, they, couples have this parallel and the balance that you have in that parallel is to stay constant, that both of you are just the ebb and flow is to be in the same line, but at one point, one's going to have to go north or south and you're going to go with them. And sometimes knowing that person who's taking you there should also want to bring you back to balance, bring you back to that central point.
Mhm.
But in her case and in others, it's not by their choosing that they're going extreme north, because we are in the north, like extreme hemisphere. And I'm up there with her too. And I'm up there with her by choice. And I know that she wants to come back down. And there's been demonstrations that, just that she really feels bad about where she's put me and that, life would be different. Even just crazy things like, we'll be somewhere and she will just kind of reflect on my life after she's gone, you know?
Mm.
And I don't wanna go there, but you can only imagine somebody in her.
Sure. It's a natural thought for
Yeah,
sure. Even as
for
a
sure.
healthy, in a healthy husband and I are not in a battling situation, you still think about that. I think it's
For
just a
sure, for
normal,
sure.
a normal thing when we're in a partnership. How do you, well, even in some of the self-care stuff, like what do you do, Dan, to kind of maintain this kind of level of energy, both mentally and physically, so that you cannot, you've got to help Teresa, you've
Mhm.
got your DAV team that's counting on you. Because I don't want to put words in your mouth, but like national commander is basically like the CEO of a company, right? Like for your
Yeah,
organization.
yeah.
So it's a pressing job, and I feel like by you being a caregiver is just making you a more compassionate, amazing national commander than somebody who would just have the boardroom experience. Like
Yeah.
you've been in the trenches, and you
Right,
are living in the
right,
trenches of that.
right, right.
But how do you
Yeah.
energize yourself? Like how are you
Well,
staying energized?
I can relate to it as a national commander last year. We have a new national commander. We passed on the torch just this past August, so not too
Okay.
long ago. So I can definitely reflect on the work of the national commander, which is very time consuming and a lot of times in airports and traveling and everything. But what I found was that I have mantras. I'm the last man in the room, and I power mingle, and so being able to give back and identify where I can be a support or help, but then also I find where I pick up where she might not pick up something, and I'll do the exploration. Or I'll recently she was considered for a trial,
Like a
so
drug trial.
yeah, for a phase 1 trial, and so I did all kinds of research on it, and I presented it to her, and then, I wanted she was afraid that if she didn't do that trial, then they would, probably not consider her for future trials. And so
No.
I composed a letter, with outlining some of the trials that were going on that she could be considered for, and then also just graciously bowing out of that one, but thanking them for it and asking for consideration. Well, here she is. She's a smarty girl, but right now, if I can do the admin things, or if I can go ahead and do medication management for her, if I can go ahead and help her with wound care, and of course, initially it was embarrassing to her,
Yeah.
here, exposing herself
Very
to me in
vulnerable.
that way and vulnerable, exactly. And
Yeah.
and I have to be conscientious too, because, others want to get involved in the caregiving aspect, but I'm selfish that I do it. I know how to do it. And so that's a thing that caregivers do.
Like our
They have
control
help.
freaks? Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, they have help that's reaching out, and it's like, "No, that's mine." I'm getting better at that, you
I
know?
think it's a big lesson in learning how to let go. I mean, I know I wanted a lot of control, but and we got to give people the opportunity, right, to show up in their way that they want to show
Yes,
up. And so it's almost like,
yes,
in some ways, you're selfish. You want to keep the control, but in other ways, you're being selfish that
yeah,
you're not letting other people help out.
yeah.
And the goal is for it to be sustainable too. And so
Yeah.
we don't want you to burn out, Dan. She
Well,
needs
I
you.
do some things, and, we talk about it. I think it's so important that I have me time, you know,
So what
and
do you do for your me time?
I love to sing, I do karaoke, but I am on a app, and I sing with people from all over the world
Wait a
on this
second. There's
app.
an app for this? Need
It's
to
called
know.
Smule. Smule, Smule. Yeah,
I'm telling my
right.
sister we call her Karaoke Annie. She's gonna
Oh,
love this.
she'll love it. She'll love it. But so I do things like that, and,
Very accessible, right? You don't have to leave your house.
exactly, I'm right
Yeah,
there, and all you need is your phone and earbuds with the mic on it. You can do Smule and sing, and, there's all kinds of, as far as just ways that you can adapt the
I love
the
it.
equalizer, or, you can do a video or animation, or just post a picture and sing background with it. But yeah, I mean, so I've recorded over 1,500 songs on Smules.
Can we watch your song?
Absolutely, for sure. If offline you wanna give me your, where I can send that to you, I'll definitely do that, or I could get more fans.
Amazing.
So go to no.
Do you have to be a good singer to do Smule? I can't
What's
even say
that?
it. Do you have to be a good singer?
No, no, that's the great thing about Smule,
Okay.
is that, like, what I'll do is I can post, like, a part 1 of a song and then invite others to sing, and it's crazy because you'll get a variety, but once in a while, or you'll get, like, a diamond in the rough, or someone who just has this really unique voice, and yeah, so
So
but yeah,
interesting.
so recently I sang with somebody from the Philippines, and, her invitation was for this song, "Tonight I Celebrate My Love," and yeah, so I just added my voice to her
I
song,
love it.
and it's a lot of fun, and so I do things like that, or I'll go to we have a movie theater walking distance. I'll go there and, just catch a movie, but yes, I used to play a lot of tennis. I haven't really played much of that. An avid golfer, so I've not really done much of that either. Working out's kind of been something on the back burner, but, I monitor, like, my sleep. I definitely try to eat as best as I can, and then also do as much as I can, with her, and I enjoy that too. I mean, I don't
Yeah,
need just me space or anything like that, because a golf outing's 5 hours plus
I
and getting
know.
there, and so I'd rather, when our best time is when we're together, and so I think, like, yeah, she's gonna go on a trip with, just going to see a friend, and she's gonna be gone for a few days, and I even, like, I'm a little bit, just, leery about,
You gotta learn to
her.
let go.
I do.
Yeah,
I do. I
I
do, and
know.
her friend even said I could come, and I'm like, "Yeah, I'll just leave that up to Teresa," but, yeah, I really, I think I'm comfortable that I'm not, like, overwhelming myself, but I again, I think where it all begins is just knowing that if you need something, then davcaregiver.org is somewhere where you can look, it identifies, kind of looks at, do you feel comfortable, in your
Yeah.
situation to
To
take
make it
care of somebody?
sustainable,
Because
this
if you think about it, taking care of an amputee or taking care of, somebody with spinal cord injuries or somebody who,
PTSD,
just
I
yeah,
imagine.
yeah,
Yeah.
mental health issues and there's a lot to say that that could just be so varied in a way that we take care of our loved ones, and so, I mean, I've been so proud to be with DAV and see the evolution of how we look at how can we expand on helping, and so forming our own program and dedicating a department to it, it's gonna evolve and it's gonna grow, but we really need the input from those who walk that walk, like
Yeah.
myself. What can we do? And that's why talking about maybe medication management and things like that that, are something that, especially when you're looking at, pain medications or things that are, wound care or, just things that you want to do
Transportation
yourself, but you
and
need that
yeah.
training, that help or to accomplish it.
Well, we'll definitely link to the DAV.org so people can get more help. Now that pass the baton on for the national commander, what's your focus with the DAV now, Dan?
So I run California operations for DAV.
Okay.
And I've been doing that for 18 years, and I've been with the organization 25 years. And so I've got that. And also just in any capacity, what I said, after leaving the organization and being the primary spokesperson for nearly 1 million members, whatever capacity, I'm the board of director chairperson now. And so I do have a role with the organization. But if it's down to just being a cheerleader for DAV, I'll be the best cheerleader that they can have. I love this organization. I don't belong to any other organizations. A lot of other people do, and I don't. We do a lot of work with other organizations, either on a national level with our legislative work or in communities nationwide. There's a collaborative effort that
Good.
happens with the veteran community in
Yeah,
general.
we
But
need that. We don't need it to be fragmented. It's
oh,
already very
no, absolutely not. And
yeah.
so, but for me, like doing this is a passion that I have. I know that have another planned way that I can contribute to the outreach of our caregiver program. And so certainly, and thank you for this opportunity to be
Yeah,
able
well, we
to
gotta
talk to
share
your
it.
audience. And so for sure, for sure. And I think what we should have is a karaoke caregiver
That's funny. So
good
we use
time event.
yeah, you should have definitely. So I'm all about combining the fun with the
Yeah,
advocacy and
you
education, and
yeah.
for a while I was doing these virtual cafes, I called them, and we would do a sing along with caregivers.
Wow! Okay.
We did some different things because yeah, people want the community, but they
Yes.
just need the breaks and the respite. And
Got
so
it,
it's like giving them
got
the
it,
ways to do that. So
got it.
I'd love to leave you like ask a question from my journal and then we'll
Oh,
let you go
perfect,
from the day.
perfect.
But this is journaling was a big part of my healing in the very beginning with emotional self-care. And so I
I can
wanted
see
other
that.
people to have a way to
Sure,
try it on without it
sure.
being real intimidating. And so this is a prompted journal that helps people put
Okay.
some focus back on their health and happiness. What's your top tip to bust stress, Dan?
Singing
Singing. I know that's good. Okay, let's do one more. And it was something you did for yourself today.
day. Wow. Okay, I've been in meetings all day.
Did you brush your teeth?
But I would say that, just connecting with people who I made it a point to find them because they're my friends that I don't get to see often. And so that's important, just to stay connected to your community. And of course, all of them always ask, how am I doing? And how's my wife and everything else. But I think that that's important too. Don't feel isolated. And so that was something that I did today. And countless times,
Intentionally.
today because when I'm home in LA, I don't get a chance to see these great friends. And so so seeing them was certainly something that was a prize today that I had for sure.
Nice. Nice. Well, I have enjoyed getting to know you, spotlighting your story. Thank you so much for the advocacy work you're doing. We're going to share the episode. We're going to make sure that people connect, the veterans and their caregivers connect to the DAV organization. Amazing that it's out there and that you're continuing to kind of advocate for caregivers, and we'll of course be wishing you and Teresa well on what's to come for both of you. But thank you so much for spending this
Well,
time with me today.
and thank you again. And thank you to all the caregivers out there. Your work's hard. We recognize it. Please, davcaregiver.org. We can help. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks for listening to the Happy Healthy Caregiver podcast on the Whole Care Network. I hope this episode provided encouragement and practical tips to infuse into your life. You'll find the show notes and all the resources mentioned at happyhealthycaregiver.com. I also invite you to check out previous episodes of the podcast that you may have missed. If you enjoy the show, be sure to subscribe so you never miss an episode. Ratings and reviews also help others discover the podcast, and sharing with a fellow caregiver is a great way to spread support. Stay connected with me between the episodes by following Happy Healthy Caregiver on your favorite social media platforms, and subscribe to the weekly newsletter where every week I share something happy, healthy, and care related. Just visit happyhealthycaregiver.com to join. Until our next episode, I'm Elizabeth Miller with a reminder to take care of you. Are you still here? Well, it's time for the disclaimer. I am not a medical, legal, or financial professional, and I am not providing medical, financial, or legal advice. If you have questions related to these topics, please seek a qualified professional. I have taken care to spotlight family caregivers and experts, but their opinions are theirs alone. This podcast is copyrighted, and no part can be reproduced without the written permission of Happy Healthy Caregiver, LLC. Thanks again for listening to the Happy Healthy Caregiver podcast on the Whole Care Network.